This is Basic Native Functions done by Jerry Feliz, presented by Assistive Touch.
So one thing to consider if you're helping someone out with vision loss is to customize some of the basic settings in your iOS device. One setting that's pretty helpful is if you change the contrast or the background. When you change the background, it provides greater visibility for the person to be able to look at their applications on their device. Those are simple settings to adjust. They're very basic settings, but they're extremely helpful. So the way that you can do that is just by going into wallpaper and then choosing the setting that you want. Right now, I'm actually using Zoom, which I'm going to cover in as well. But you'd go into wallpaper and you'd customize that setting. Sometimes a black background is very, very helpful. So the next settings that we want to take a look at, actually that could be under display and brightness. So let's see here. These are also helpful settings here, display and brightness. You can have light and you can have dark. So if we change it to a dark contrast here, that's also going to help with visibility. So I'm going to go back and tap on that. Then we have something called night shift that we can adjust as well. That may make reading at nighttime a little bit easier. Okay, adjusting your auto lock can be helpful as well because you don't want it to go off every 10 seconds, 30 seconds, and then have to sign in again. Again, just another helpful setting that you can adjust. Right, text size. We can go here and customize our text size. And so right now I have it pretty low. So I'm gonna adjust that slightly to about 50%. And we can see the difference up here. I'm gonna hit the back button and then we can kind of see the difference here as well. The text is much clearer and easier to see. Okay, bold text. I'm not gonna turn that off, but here you can see, I don't know, maybe if you do have an iPhone, you can compare the difference between the text. The bold text, again, makes visibility better. I do believe that it improves visibility. Okay. There's a view here for certain phones, certain iPads called zoomed. And that's going to change the size of the way your home screen appears and the way certain things appear. The best way to describe it, it would be like adjusting scaling on your PC or on your Mac. And so if I actually change that, I'm just concerned that it would mess the setting up. But let's give that a try. Okay, so I changed that, and I'm gonna just go back, and it's telling me use standard here. So changing display zoom will restart your iPhone. So I'm gonna cancel out of that. That's kind of what I was concerned about. So this is the recommended setting here. And so I would go with zoom. It's going to increase the size of your applications. It improves visibility. So I'm going to go back. Okay. So this is under view, and as we go back here to the top, display and brightness, and then we go back just to our settings. So again, some really helpful basic settings that will help improve your visibility for folks with low vision. And tonight we're going to cover the full spectrum of vision loss, from low vision, which is pretty high level acuity, to legal blindness, to no vision. Okay. So now let's go to accessibility. So this is a setting that you'll find in both your iOS and your Android devices. And it's a setting that's fairly important to get familiar with. So I'm going to start with Zoom and then get back to VoiceOver. So let's tap on Zoom here. So Zoom, and I've been using it throughout the process, throughout the demonstration thus far. So it's a 3-finger gesture that allows you to increase the size of all of the information on the screen. This is what I call comprehensive magnification. There are 3 types of magnification. One of them is comprehensive magnification. And the reason it's so helpful is because it allows you obviously to see everything that's on the screen. It includes menus, for example. The other way to increase the size of things is simply by increasing the size of the text like we did earlier. So let's see, let's go to this as an example. So this is a shortcut that I set, which I'll go over as well, because this is also very helpful because it provides ease of access to the customization of specific settings. I'm going to go to my control center, swipe down. I put down here this AA. This allows me to customize my text size on demand. So I'm going to increase it to full size. And here we can clearly see the difference in the size of the text. I'm going to go back. And again, this is great because it's very easy to access this particular setting. Of note, it's important to remember that strong users of magnification are people that toggle back and forth between different levels of magnification. So they're using the technology for different functions, different purposes, different situations. The last way that we can magnify something is simply by, I'll use a picture as an example. This is the simplest way to do it, is simply by pinching in or out of something. So for example, here, I can pinch in or out.
Alert from calendar. Oration pod alabres.
I could simply pinch in and out of a setting of this video, or a picture, or a web browser within the body of a web browser. So those are the 3 ways that we can magnify using iOS. So I'm going to exit out of here. Something also to keep in mind, let's say you're a volunteer and you're helping out a person for the first time, and you want to help them to get familiar with some of these accessibility features. One exercise that I recommend folks do is this. So I'm going to go to my home screen, and I usually start on the home screen for a lot of different reasons. One, there's really good visibility on the home screen. So depending on the level of vision loss, this is a pretty good space to actually provide some basic training on. So for example, if someone had very limited vision, for example, but they could still read something depending on the level of magnification, we could zoom in here on a particular app, and the person can then access that app. This also gives you a good indicator of where that person's vision is. At least functionally speaking, in a very limited sense and specific to your display or your digital environment. But it can be useful. And this is the kind of reading that I call scan reading, because it allows you to get pertinent information if you're singularly dependent upon vision at this point. But that information is still very useful, even though it's very difficult to manage. So this is one really good exercise to do. The other piece of this exercise, and we're going to zoom out, is exploring all the four corners of your digital environment here. In this case, it's our home screen. And so the way that I'm doing this is I tap with 3 fingers 2 times. I swipe up to this corner here with 3 fingers. And then I can navigate the menu here. And then I have the person identify the specific apps that are on the top left-hand corner, bottom left-hand corner, bottom right-hand corner, and the center. This is what I call navigation and orientation. And we actually always teach that in one way or another. We're always teaching navigation and orientation principles. Another built-in native accessibility feature, again, these are built-in solutions to your operating system, which was a significant, although be a cliche, game changer when they started doing inclusive design to these devices. It's just made such a big difference because you don't have to buy a third-party solution that's really, really expensive. They started taking accessibility seriously. So another feature that's really helpful, it's in settings. And we're going to go to accessibility again. And we're going to go to something called speak content. Okay. And I said it wrong. It's spoken content. And that's partially because they've changed the name several times. So when we enable this setting here on the right, so spoken content allows you to perform a 2-finger swipe down from the top left-hand corner of your screen, and then the information will be read to you. So this is a feature that I call reading on demand, similar to changing the text size on demand, because you can do it in almost any situation when you want to do it, when you want to apply the specific function. And this will become even more important because there's a distinction between on-demand reading and comprehensive screen reading. Okay, so I'm going to go here and enable the controller so that you can see better how this works. So this is our controller here on the top right. I'm going to tap on it, and then I'm going to hit the play button.
Show controller on. The speech controller allows quick access to speak screen and speak on touch. Expand the controller and press play to start reading all content. Expand the controller and tap on the finger icon to start speak on touch. Then tap or drag anywhere on the screen to hear the content under your finger. Lift your finger.
Okay. So you can either do that with a 2-finger swipe down, or if you find it easier, because some folks have more of a difficult time with the gestures, you can just enable the speak controller. This is also customizable. So for example, if you find it's reading too fast, tap on the controller, hit play.
Finger to exit speak on touch. Controller actions. Long press, speak on touch, double tap, read all content, idle opacity, 35%.
So here, I lowered the speech rate. It did have to toggle through. So I'm going to hit play again.
Show controller on. The speech controller allows quick access to.
Okay, so I'm going to pause it, and it's here on the right-hand corner where I'm focused. And you can just tap on that, and it will customize the different speed levels for the screen reader. So I'm going to disable that because I no longer need that. You have other ways to customize it as well on the bottom. You can enable a long press to do some functions. I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to turn it off now. But if you can use it on the internet, you can use that pretty much globally or everywhere on your phone. It doesn't work quite as well as VoiceOver, but it is really, really good. I'm going to go back now. And I did skip one particular setting that I wanted to cover. So I'm going to just go back quickly before I move on to VoiceOver. All right. So remember how I was mentioning navigation and orientation. So although it's not necessarily an accessibility feature, it does help. I look at it as more like a universal design principle. It's just really good design to have a search function. And it's really important to become familiar with maximizing its use, because it expedites the process of finding what you're looking for. So I do look at it as a navigation and orientation principle because it expedites things. So if we swipe down and then tap here, we can just simply type in a search result, or use another feature here, which is our microphone button, to simply dictate something. It's not going to work now because we have Zoom enabled, but that's another feature that I really do consider an accessibility feature because it is speech to text, and that is a feature you want to enable as well. And so let's say I'm looking for something. I'll just type in anything here. Let's see, TEXT. Then it's going to populate a list, and it's a nice ordered list, and now I can explore it, and I can select from that list within the context of settings. So again, just another good navigation and orientation solution here. You can also access your search from your home screen. The function is different because this has more of a global effect, where you're going to be exploring search results from the internet as well as your operating system. But again, just another really quick way to access information and quickly get there. All right, we recently, and I'm not going to cover the subject, but I just will mention it because I think it's really helpful. We recently did a class using a Bluetooth keyboard with VoiceOver and covered the same subject. Again, really helpful to use some of these features with a Bluetooth keyboard. It gives you a different dimension. And it also makes searching even easier. So now we're going to go from reading on demand to comprehensive screen reading. Back to accessibility. Quick FYI, a lot of these settings can be entered by using Siri. So just kind of keep that in mind. I'm not doing it because I'm on Zoom. Okay, so I'm going to tap here, and here are our VoiceOver settings. Something to keep in mind, it's easy to get cognitive overload when you're first working with VoiceOver. So just kind of keep that in mind. Another thing to keep in mind when you're first learning the application, the whole screen reader here, it's important to keep in mind that the best way to think about this is VoiceOver changes the way your operating system works. So for example, right now, if I wanted to navigate to a page from my home screen, I'll just exit out of here. I simply swipe right with one finger, and it takes me to whatever page I want to go to. That's going to be different when we turn on VoiceOver. So keep that in mind. With VoiceOver, you have one finger, two finger, three finger, based gesture commands. VoiceOver is a comprehensive screen reader that is controlled by gesture-based commands. So let's enable VoiceOver.
VoiceOver on. Settings. Accessibility. Back button.
I'm going to go home.
Message.
And the way I did that is a little bit more complicated than it used to be. If you had an iPhone or an iPad with a home button, you just simply hit your home button and it would take you back home. Now with your haptic feedback, I had to swipe up and hear for a second beep sound from the bottom middle and almost a third of the way up with my index finger, and then it took me back home. So it's a little bit more complicated. You can also program a command that'll make it easier to get back home. And that's one of the principles we teach. We teach people to get back home because it helps in terms of navigation and orientation, because you can get easily frustrated when you're first learning this, okay? So previously, before VoiceOver was turned on, I swiped right and left, and it toggled me between different pages, okay? But now, when I swipe right, it's gonna move me one item.
Photos. Camera. Notes.
And that's simply, again,
Double tap to open. Use 3D touch to show.
That's simply a swipe right.
Calendar. Third clock. 7.
And the exercise that I recommend in terms of becoming familiar with VoiceOver is exploring all of the different apps on your screen, swiping right until you get to the last app.
Speak screen.
And swiping left until you get to the last, the first app.
Messages.
Okay, that way the person becomes familiar with their digital environment here. Okay, that's our one finger commands. Our one finger commands are our navigation commands because they move us one item at a time. And we now notice that the way the operating system functions is differently now when we have VoiceOver enabled, and that's important to note. Okay, so those are one finger commands. The other one finger command is how do you enter an app? So with VoiceOver disabled, we simply tap on the screen and we will enter that specific application. Well, now if I tap on that particular spot,
messages, one unread message.
It
double tap to open. Use 3D touch to show.
It tells me what the app is, and it also gives me information about the app. But in order for me to enter the app, I will need to double tap. The best place to double tap is the center of your screen. It gives you the best results. And that's what we tell our clients. Find the specific item you want the VoiceOver focus to be on. What's the VoiceOver focus? Well, the VoiceOver focus is this box here, or where the focus is, or the last place your screen reader told you where you were. But where I am pressing is going to be here.
Books.
Okay? Right now, my VoiceOver focus is there, but that's where I'm going to be pressing because it's usually what gives me the best results. Again, I'm going to put messages up here.
Messages. One unread message.
Now I'm going to double tap.
To open.
I'm going to double tap in a totally separate location.
Messages. Back button.
It opened my messages. Now I'm going to go and swipe up from the bottom center and wait for the second beep and that haptic feedback.
Message.
Okay, that brought me back home. Again, home is the safest place to be because I know exactly where I am. And it's very easy to get frustrated when you're first learning how to use VoiceOver, particularly, you know, everybody's different when they come to MAVV. and when they start receiving services. Some folks have more computer knowledge than others. Some folks are not as comfortable using smart devices. And so everybody's coming from a different background. So, really trying to make this very user-friendly so someone can get comfortable. The slogan that I don't find cliche at all, and I really like at MAVI that we use, is living confidently with vision loss. And so that's what we try to do with the technology side of things, is to make folks feel comfortable using their device, because that really adds a great deal of value to their lives. Okay, so I'm gonna go back here. And now that we did those are the commands for one finger. So pretty straightforward, right? That, now we sort of get it. Now, let's say I want to read something. I go down here and
Messages, back button. Messages, doc, mail, 19 unread emails. Double tap to open.
Let's go
Use 3D
here.
touch to show
Okay.
mail, exchange, edit, button. Paul and Andrew, regarded Paul and David, Black, Darren, Evie Dull, forward, presentation video update toolbar, updated just now. Updated just now, compose, button.
Okay.
Double Paul and Andrew,
So I'm
regarded.
just gonna double
Select-
tap this, okay? This is
Looks
just
great, guys.
look, this is an email that I got. So I can swipe to the specific location and it could read the information to me,
Thanks.
okay?
Actions available.
Or I can do something called the say all command. And this will read all of the information to me. Now the difference is I'm not using one finger anymore. I'll be using two fingers. And you swipe down from the top left-hand corner of the screen and it will read comprehensively to you. So let's do that.
Thanks, Andrew, for tomorrow. Can you pause the video for 10 seconds at the end so people can read the thank you slide? Jerry Feliz access tech.
Okay, so it would have read everything on the screen had I not stopped it. Again, this will be a two-finger command. It's just your index finger and your middle finger, and you tap the center of the screen and it will silence it, okay? So those are the most important two-finger commands. The other one that's kind of important but a little bit more challenging to do is called your scrub. So a scrub is just a horizontal with two fingers left to right, and it functions almost as your escape key with your keyboard. I'll just demonstrate that real quick and be happy to take questions.
Paul and Andrew.
So you can see how helpful that was.
Paul and David, video.
This was a basic native functions video done by Jerry Feliz. For more information, please contact Jerry Feliz at 857-443-6636. Email FelizAssistiveTech.